Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what time you'll be listening to this podcast. And welcome to another podcast with Mimi. And I'll be talking about some few things that has come up, especially from my experience recently. So this podcast is more like a quick chat. So my plan is to post on different topics that I've experienced and I've learned from my experiences, and more like lessons that I've learned from my experiences. So there'll be topics such as today we'll be talking about padding that budget. Why should we pad the budget? Do we need to pad the budget as art directors? So yeah, that is what I'm talking about in this podcast. So stay tuned. So, why should you pad your budget as an art director? Recently, I was involved in a short film as the art director, and me and the production designer, both did the budget for the movie. And it came up to about 3.6 million or thereabout, and this is without us padding the budget. So the budget was we made the budgets according to the price of what each item cost, and not thinking about circumstances where things will change. So this is like a first budget, a first breakdown of the set and prop materials, and also a draft budget. To be honest, the plan would meet with the director, the EP, and then we would adjust the budget based on what they want to achieve with the movie. And it turned out that they did not have the money according to them, they did not have the amount we're requesting, and that we should instead do the movie with a 1 million naira budget, which was crazy, to be honest, because at the end of the day we haven't even factored in our service charge. So what I'm just trying to get into this discussion is, as art directors, we need to understand that most of these producers are just after making the movie as cheap as possible, if possible free. But it is our role to recognize this game that is being played and just tell the producers, EP or whoever in charge of the money, that this amount you're asking for me to do this project with is not going to be possible. So there's no need for you to promise miracles, because you're an artist, but you are not a miracle worker. Like, it's not possible. There's some things that are just not possible, because if you think about how the camera guys or the light guys, you can't tell them, bring this light or this thing for so amount, because they'll be like, it's not possible, that is the price, you can go and check it, or that is my price, this is what it costs in the market. When it comes to art, it's just a bit fuzzy. Nothing is doesn't have a price tag. Apart from that, art is all about time. You can do something with the most cheap material, but at the end of the day, if for it to look good, you need time as an artist to take care of all the little details and make it look amazing. People will be like, you did this with this cheap material. Yes, but it took me time to do it. And so we need to figure out, okay, how do we charge for our time? How do we charge for circumstances where say the production decides to extend the day of shoots, or they demand for extra items that were not in the budget in the first place? How do we deal with all that in order to look efficient, in order to look like we know what you're doing, in order to look professional and not just look confused? Because That was what it was looking at from my experience. We're just like, okay, so where is that money going to come from and all that, knowing that the money that we're given was very, very little to do the shoot. So it took a lot of begging, a lot of using our own items, our personal items, in order to shoot the movie. But all this didn't matter to the EP or the producer or director. It didn't matter to them because they've paid you. You said you can do the job. So now, where is this and where is that? Where is this and where is that? And we're like, okay, that wasn't in the budget. But I just felt like this could have been avoided from the onset if we had stood our grounds and knowing what it would take, knowing what was involved, knowing that we are not miracle workers. It would have helped us a lot if we from the beginning had just said, oh no, this wouldn't work, this budget wouldn't work. And in order for me not to look unprofessional, I won't be taking this money, because at the end of the day it's going to just be full of regrets. So yeah, that's what I've learned so far. And speaking to a producer friend about this, she said that normally producers have 3 budgets. So one that they've like the minimum they can squeeze out of everyone, cast and crew. Then they have one that is enough to like make everyone happy and okay, like and then the third one has like, as in the money is enough for the whole. So the idea is they are to manage these budgets, yeah, and they've already made sure that their side is covered. They've made sure their own end is covered. So it's left for you as a cast or as a crew or whatever that is coming into a project to just know your worth. Know what you can do and what you can't do. Know your limits, you understand? And make sure that you stick to it in order to avoid looking unprofessional at the end or looking like you don't know what you're doing. So that is what I'm going to leave you guys with today. Pad the budgets. If you can get to the budget of the producer, which is like the second level budget, then fine. If you can even get a third level budget, fine. So it just depends on how good you are, your experience, and a lot of things, a lot of factors play into this, but you get what I'm saying. Like, don't not shoot yourself in the foot trying to be an artist and not thinking of it professionally in terms of like, okay, what could happen if this if circumstances didn't go the right way? Where are you going to be safe in terms of the budget so that you look like you know what you're doing? Find a way to factor in all these costs. It can be miscellaneous, make sure it's enough. It can be the price for an item. You can inflate it a bit, because at the end of the day the price can change, or they might say, oh, they need this for an extra day. Meanwhile, according to the script, you only need it for 1 day. So at the end of the day, you need to be able to take care of all that, instead of coming at that moment to say, oh, there's no money anymore. You just look like you don't know what you're doing. So it's just good that you are able to deliver with what you're given based on your calculations. So I probably along the line will get more insights on how to go about this, and I'll share them with you. But for now, that is all I have to say. I hope you've enjoyed this very short chat with me, and let me know, how do you, because I'm learning in the process, like, how do you pad the budget so that at the end of the day you're not the one looking like you don't know what you're doing. Meanwhile, every other department looks like, oh, they have everything on ground, everything is specific, everything is slated, everything. But when it comes to art, it's just like, where do you understand? What do you price? What are you pricing? How are you pricing your time? How are you pricing the items you're getting? How are you making sure that you take care of miscellaneous expenses? And how are you defending your budget, so that at the end of the day you get what you want. And if you have to walk out of a project, you walk out. My sister, my brother, you walk out, because at the end of the day your career matters the most, and people talk a lot in the industry, and you don't want to end up being the one that they will just be, you understand. You need to put your have a structure, you understand. I would say there are things you need to consider when preparing your budget as an art director. One of them would be the duration of the project execution. So that means you need to make sure that you take into consideration the duration of the project. If it's something that they are expecting it to be done real fast, that means you need more hands on ground to know how to execute faster. If it's something that you can take your time, then you don't need so much people in your team to execute. So you have to consider that, meaning you have to put into consideration the cost of your team and any other extra expenses that will be incurred based on the fact that the project is to be executed in a fast pace or slow pace. So that depends on what it is. Second thing to consider is maintaining the standards of your professional brand. So you have to consider, how do you view yourself as a brand? So based on your experience, based on your brand, you can actually demand certain amount of money. Of course, if you're just new in the business, it will be difficult for you to demand a lot. But if you have experience, that experience alone will let you know that, okay, you need money for certain things which must be covered in order for you to deliver the standard that you want to stick to. So as an artist, it's very, very, very important that you have a standard and you stick to the standard, instead of you lowering your standards, and then people would see you as that which you presented yourself, and at the end of the day you'll be having issues delivering on your work. So it's best for you to maintain your standards, and if the budget doesn't maintain your standard, you have to communicate this effectively to the producer or EP director, whoever needs to be told, so that it can be up to your standard and you can deliver what they know you for and nothing less. The third thing to consider is respecting the value of your team members. So when putting your team together, you have to put into consideration their experiences, their level of professionalism, and just what they bring to the team. So you need to know your team well and know what they bring to the team and pay them accordingly. It doesn't make sense to undervalue your team members, and then at the end of the day the team members would only be given what they feel they are going to be paid for and not what they believe they deserve, and it affects the way the work flows. Knowingly or unknowingly, it's just something that happens. When you undervalue people, you do not expect to get the best from them. You shouldn't expect to get the best from them. So that's one thing. Make sure that you value your team members and you pay them accordingly so that they can deliver their best. The fourth thing to consider when preparing your budget is to consider miscellaneous expenses or emergency funds. Keep aside money. Find a way to prepare your budget so that you can take care of miscellaneous expenses and emergency funds that may be needed during the course of the project. And how can you do this? Like I said earlier, you can make sure you consider change of market prices, which happens very frequently nowadays. Change of market prices. Another thing to consider is rent for the rentals. Even though you might need items for two nights, be aware that sometimes due to one thing or the other, the production might need it for one more extra day, so you need to put that into consideration when preparing your budget. And the other ways you can make sure that all these expenses are being taken care of, even having a line item called miscellaneous expenses is allowed. It can vary, and it is something that is allowed in a budget so that it can take care of things that unforeseen problems and things like that. So the fifth thing to consider when preparing your budget is to discuss the director's expectations on the sets and props, because sometimes if you do not communicate with the director on what he's expecting, at the end of the day you would not be shooting a film that you will not be prepared for a film that he's ready to shoot, and that disconnect will be very unprofessional of you. So you have to make sure that you discuss with the director what he's expecting. For instance, if there's a fight scene in the movie, then you probably need to take provision of, like, you need to provide soft props, maybe like a gun. If a gun is being used to hit someone, okay, maybe you need a soft version of that. If a pot is used to hit someone on the head, maybe you need to have a soft version of that. So because if you do not have the discussion with the director, he might be thinking, oh, the budget covers it, when it doesn't, or it may not. And in such a situation, you find yourself feeling, oh, you should have made that available, or you would have in the budget, or you would have discussed that with the director to increase the budget, just because you would need to prepare these things that he's expecting. So it is very important to discuss with your director to make sure that he knows what he's expecting before the shoot proper starts. So these are things that need to be considered in the pre-production stage of the production or a movie or whatever. And once the budget has been approved, once you've received the budget, maybe first installment or whatever, you can then discuss with the director on what they should expect based on the budget that you have received, if it is lower than what you had presented, so that everyone knows they shouldn't be expecting paradise when they only paid for ghetto. I don't know if you get my point, but yeah, thank you again for listening. I'm going to add this to the podcast I had earlier recorded, and yeah, let me know what you think. Bye. All right, have a good day wherever you are right now listening to this. Thank you for listening. Please follow Artcast on Instagram at artcast_tribe on Instagram. That's ARTCAST_tribe TRIBE on Instagram. Follow us there. Let us know what you think about padding the budget. And yeah, have a great day. Bye.